The NBA draft is officially in the books, and Celtics World, you should be happy and applauding because the Boston Celtics will remain with Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Even though the word out there that they were fielding calls, teams were offering, their whole bodies, left arms, right arms, every limb you can think about, they were offering to get Derek White and Jaylen Brown. They were going to give up some top picks, but the Boston Celtics decided to stand pat. You heard Brad Stevens talk about it. He said that he likes the young core of his team, meaning Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard. He talked about Peyton Pritchard too, being a part of that young core. So, I'm just going to give the Boston Celtics a heck of a round of applause because Brad Stevens, he's just a genius. Welcome to the show. Appreciate everybody out there watching the live show. I'm your host, the Wayne Breezie. This is Celtics World right here on Bleacher Report. And we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to recap the draft, what the Boston Celtics did with their 3 draft picks this year. That's right, 3. They went in with 2. They came out with 3. And so we'll talk about those guys. We'll talk about what the Celtics did to set up the draft. I didn't really get a chance to talk to you guys about that. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to go live and give you my overreactions of the draft last night. I was traveling, but the Boston Celtics have 3 players, which I believe 2 of those players are going to be on 2-way contracts. Roster's pretty thick, and we'll get prepared for free agency, which is coming up, right? So the Boston Celtics stand pat to get better. Now, going into the draft, a lot of stuff went down. You had trades, you had Brad Stevens and cooking. Literally, he was cooking. I mean, he went in the kitchen, the accountant and all that type. Everybody came together. It was like, listen, man, we got to figure out how to get under, you know what I'm saying, that first apron. How to get under that first apron. They had to figure out. And so you had the first trade with the Boston Celtics where they traded Drew Holiday. All right. And they were able to get in return Drew Holiday. They got Anthony Simons from the Portland Trailblazers. So they sent Drew Holiday up to the Portland Trailblazers. We're not going to break down and get into the money, but let's just say that the Celtics were at that moment close to getting under the second apron. Remember, I did a show and I said that the goal was to get under the second apron, meaning that they will no longer be penalized for being over that second apron, and they will be able to, when it comes down to signing free agents, if they can get under that second apron, they get a higher mid-level exception when it comes to a better tier of guys that they can go after. Oh, we got Jack Knox in the building. Shout out to Jack Knox in the live chat. Let's go green. I'm excited about Amari. So in return, they got Anthony Simmons. Now, just quick overall, what do I love about that trade? Now, look, I hate giving up nostalgia, but I understand it. And if you're a Celtics fan, you've seen Brad Stevens make tough decisions. We moved on from Rob Williams. We moved on from Marcus Smart. These are fan favorites. And I felt like Drew Holiday became a fan favorite. 35-year-old player. I believe that's his age. All I know is he's getting up there. And I look at Drew Holiday. I love everything that he did for the Celtics. I'm grateful for Drew Holiday. I think Drew Holiday definitely was a key component to winning Banner 18. Shout out to Drew Holiday, key component for winning Banner 18. But and defensively, I feel like the championship year defensively, he was bar none one of the top defenders in the league. This particular past season, I felt like due to injury, I'm not going to say age, but injury definitely slowed him down a little bit. I didn't feel like he was able to keep up with those quick young point guards like he used to. And it took more taxing to me on Derek White and things like that. And so when I'm saying to myself, they had to figure out a way to move on from his contract. That's what it was. I mean, if the contract wasn't that rich, I think he would still be a Boston Celtic. But Brad Stevens figured it out. They traded him, got picks in return, all that good stuff. So Drew Holiday out to Portland. Insert Anthony Simons. What do I like about Simons? A, he's young. B, he's on an expiring contract, which means it's a make it take it year for him. This kid's going to try to ball the freak out, right? He's looking to get extended, possibly by the Celtics. And I like the future of what the Celtics can look like with a Simons Brown Tatum. I like that. Let's just hold on to that, though. But this kid can score. I mean, are you going to lose defense? Probably. You're not going to have that sticky on-ball defense, but I like the size of Anthony Simons. I think the kid averaged, 19-something points last year. I like that because that was the one thing I felt like Drew Holiday lacked. He just wasn't scoring the way we thought we needed to score. We needed 13, 15, 19, 17. We needed those points from Drew when he was out there. And every now and then he gave you a game where he scored, but he just wasn't consistent with the double-digit scoring this past season. So they're going to get a player that can do that. And, this is going to be super interesting to watch Simons. I'm glad they didn't move on from him, which they still can. Don't get it twisted. Now, listen, I don't think Brad Stevens is done. I think, there's going to be some more moving around for free agency period. Player wise, there's going to be still some moving around. Jack says, go be great, Holiday. Yeah, go be great in Portland. But we're going to be inserting Anthony Simons, a young, I would say, throttle to get to the basket. If you love the way Jaylen Brown gets to the basket, you're going to love the way Anthony Simons gets to the basket. I mean, this kid can attack the rim. And we'll break him down more throughout the offseason. I hope he stays. Like that was the first thing. Then the next trade to get under the second apron. Now got us close to getting under the second apron. The Boston Celtics decided to move on from the 7-footer. I was about to say somebody else's name, but Kristaps Porzingis. They decided to move on from him, and they traded him to it's a 3-team deal where he ended up with the Atlanta Hawks. Excuse me. So a 3-team deal. Ended up with the Atlanta Hawks. And in return, we'll take a look at this. We can see what the Celtics got. This was per Shams, NBA, Atlanta, Brooklyn, and Boston. There was a 3-team trade. It sent Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick to the Hawks. Terrence Mann and Atlanta's number 22 pick to the Nets. And the Boston Celtics got Georges Niang and a second rounder to the Celtics. So they got a future second rounder. They didn't get a this year's second rounder. They got a future second rounder to the Boston Celtics. So Kristaps Porzingis, I know a lot of people are a little bit sad about that. He's going to be moving on to a new adventure out in Atlanta. Again, another player that I felt like was a big part of that championship during the playoffs. It was good to see him go out there and try to grit it out. But just to get to the playoffs that year, he was a key component. I don't care what anybody says. He was money. And he helped the Celtics defensively as well as offensively. The way he shot the 3 was like, oh man, it was on point. But the Celtics, again, expiring contract, 30+ million. You could tell Brad Stevens was literally trying to get under that second apron, which now they currently are under the second apron. All right. And kind of close to, getting a little bit under that first apron, which will allow the Celtics to explore more options this offseason. So we'll see how that pans out. The draft is over, so you're not going to really see any picks, but get drafted this year. But the Celtics have several future second-round picks, and we're going to talk about that in a second because Brad Stevens literally cooked all week long. Not all weekend, all week long. He was cooking. So they move on from Kristaps Porzingis. They move on from his size. And so you're going to get a lot of questions, right? You're going to get a lot of questions about what are the Celtics going to do with the bigs, and we'll get into some draft day recap. But I do want to get your thoughts on the situation when it comes to the Boston Celtics, and what do you feel was the better trade? Was it the Drew Holiday trade for Anthony Simons, or do you feel it was the Kristaps Porzingis trade for Georges Niang? All right, so you're going to get a big Georges Niang, he's going to be a big out here for the Boston Celtics. So this is somebody now. They have two bigs that are currently going to be free agents and then returning. Obviously, you're going to get Kada and Tillman. Those would be the bigs that are returning to the team. So which trade was better, Drew Holiday, Anthony Simons, or Kristaps Porzingis for Georges Niang? I didn't include any of the picks or anything like that. I know that's part of the deal, but just player for player, Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons, I feel like that's a plus. You're trading defense for offense. And again, I feel like you're trading defense for offense when it comes to Niang, Georges Niang, and Kristaps Porzingis. Both were defensive guys, but I do like that. You know what I'm saying? I do. Chris Merchant in the building, in the live chat. What's going on? Brown, white for the Greek Freak. He still wants to move on from Jaylen Brown. Some people still want to trade Jaylen Brown. It's not necessarily over. Like I said, the draft is over. I feel like Brown is safe. I feel like White is safe. But you're talking about moving two big contracts. That's actually, something that can happen. And you bring in Giannis. Let me ask y'all this: would you agree to this deal? Like, for those that are watching, do you like that trade? I mean, you get potentially the best player in the NBA. It's arguable, right? Some people feel like the best player in the NBA is Jokic, but some people still feel like a healthy Giannis, he is unstoppable. The Milwaukee Bucks. You think the Bucks will trade with the Celtics and do that with inside the conference? I don't know, man. That's a tough one. But in return, they'll get Jaylen Brown. They no longer have Chris Middleton, right? So in return, they'll get Jaylen Brown, they'll get Derek White. That's giving up like a 2-for-1er just for a big dominant guy that's been struggling with injuries. But at the end of the day, so is Jaylen Brown. So I don't know. I don't know if I would do this. I mean, money-wise, this probably works out. I would have to ask the cap gurus about stuff like this. I'm not a salary cap guru if this would even work. But player-wise, the 2-for-1, I don't know. This is a tough one. It's a tough one. And I'm not trying to say I'm a Jaylen Brown homer or whatever like that. Like, I'm interested in something like this. I mean, you're getting Giannis, but would Giannis want to go to Boston and his roster not be, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Giannis and Tatum in the future, yeah, but Giannis right now, it'd be a lot of work on Giannis, right? Giannis and Simons, that's interesting. Interesting. Could be interesting. Don't see that happening in the future, Chris. But it's a possibility. Like I said, it ain't over. I still feel like Brad is going to continue to cook. Thanks for joining the live stream right here on Bleacher Report. But again, which trade do you feel was better? Let me know. Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons or Kristaps Porzingis for Georges Niang. I did spell his name wrong. Let me add the S to his name so y'all don't think, oh, Breezy can't spell. Sure, I can. Just type fast. You know what I mean? So look, both of those players are out. New players are going to come in. So a lot of people feel that the Boston Celtics have gotten worse. Do you agree or disagree? Me personally, on paper, they got worse. Let's just keep it a buck. On paper, they're not going to be the same team. We already knew the caveat of Jason Tatum, who, by the way, can we give that man a round of applause? It's literally working out. Like doing some light drill work. Okay. Jason Tatum is going to come back stronger. And physically, I think he's going to come back stronger. I still question the mental aptitude of what it is to come back from an Achilles injury. Not every player comes back the same up here. I do believe Jason Tatum has the correct support system, and I believe he's going to come back stronger. I personally do not want Jason Tatum to play in 2025 and 2026, but that is not my call. I personally would like for him to fully recover, take the amount of time that it's supposed to take to recover, continue to work, continue to get better, and make his debut next season. I think that would just make me feel so much better down on the inside. But again, not my call. Jason Tatum looks like he's going to come back stronger. So he is out there working up. And again, man, that's the future. Tatum and Brown. Like, Brad does not want to break those two guys up. So I'm super excited about what they're going to be. They're the future of the Celtics. And I think the key component to those two players is Derek White. And I don't see the Celtics moving on from him either. He'll be here for at least a few more years. But I really like the fact that I think this is going to be a season we're going to see more Peyton Pritchard, all right, for the Drew Holiday pick, because they really didn't address the guard position, which I like. You know what I'm saying? Jack says, go, let's go, JT. Love it, man. Love to see the guy rehabbing. All right. On draft day, there was a trade, and we're going to talk about the draft. Now, the Boston Celtics, they drafted in the first round with pick 28. And you know what's funny? The NFL draft and the NBA draft uses the same sound. They do. They sure do. Now, I don't even know why I do. I don't do a lot of mock drafting for the NBA because I'm lost. I'm not gonna lie. There's players overseas. There's players from there's just different, so many different types of players. I don't know where Brad is looking or thinking. I'm looking at players coming out of college because that's kind of like what I watch. No, not Brad Stevens. Why? Why? Not Brad Stevens. And so, he addressed the first round. Loved what I saw from Brad in the first round. Brad Stevens went and got an international player from Spain in the first round with pick 28, the 19-year-old 6'7" guard. All right. Who's going to give the Celtics some type of versatility. Now, I feel like this player is going to be going to ball out. I do. I don't know how quick he's going to develop. I know he's 19, but he's been playing professional basketball in Spain for a long period of time, really since a young age. One of his idols, obviously, is going to be a guy that we're pretty familiar with, and Luka Doncic. I saw pictures of them going around. Zen 101, what's going on, man? Welcome to the live stream. Your question: do they still have Davison? They do still have Davison at this point. Again, G League Player of the Year. Could we see this be? Remember, I did a show talking about the Celtics literally developing some of these players. You rock out with Jaylen Brown. He's the lead guy. I didn't see the trade for Anthony Simmons in the future and my forefront. You bring in, another scorer, and maybe this is your bench, right? Peyton Pritchard starts at the 1, JD Davison, 1 coming off the bench. He'll replace the point guard because that's what he is. He's literally a point guard. He's a playmaking point guard. I like JD Davison. It's a draft pick from the Boston Celtics. I do like, this is one of Brad Stevens' guys. Maybe this is where you see him kind of take it up a notch, potentially, not saying he's going to be the 6th man of the year or anything like that, but maybe this is when you get to see some of these draft picks, Jordan Walsh, JD Davison. I still want to see Baylor shine. Maybe you get and this, especially in this particular upcoming season, when you're not going to have Jason Tatum out there. So Davison still is with the Boston Celtics currently, and we'll see how that pans out. Maybe he's going to get traded. I don't know. But I do like the fact that the Celtics can promote, in my opinion, move on from Drew Holiday. You bring in you move on from Drew Holiday, you promote Peyton Pritchard, and then you kind of, JD Davison gets that. He has to make the he has to make the team too, right? Like he has to still make the roster. I mean, the kid earned himself on the team for that last roster spot. But again, can he hold on to it? And the biggest question mark about the Boston Celtics is what are they going to do with Sam Hauser? Like that's the biggest, because that's $10 million right there, right? So what are they going to do with Sam Hauser? Are they going to move on from him? Dude shot 41% from the 3-point line. I don't know if you want to move on from that. He did deal with a lot of injuries. So there's a lot of stuff the Celtics got to get right and tight this offseason. But getting back to the draft, just looking at my man Hugo Gonzalez, didn't average a lot from across season. We could check out his stats or whatever like that. We kind of go through some stats. And just so, yeah, you can see last year he averaged 5.2 points per game. All right. So not a lot of scoring from the young fella, at that 6'7". But I think what I like about him is his athleticism. I like his length. I like the size for him to be able to play guard. I mean, it's kind of what you want, right? You want the size. He's a wing. I mean, look, he's a wing. What does Brad Stevens draft? Wing players, 6'7", 6'8", 6'6" to 6'8". Like, that's kind of like how he wants his players to be, with the exception of guys like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. Those are exceptions. But at the end of the day, you get another wing in here to come and compete for a roster spot, right? And they're talking about already bringing him over across seas. They're not going to kind of like hold on and let him develop. No, 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 no. You're not going to get any of that. The Boston Celtics are really high in on Hugo Gonzalez. So we'll see how that pans out for the Boston Celtics once, Summer League starts, and how he looks when Summer League kicks off and things like that. But a kid averaged 5.2 points per game last season, which is what we're looking at. What I want to know, I mean, it's a 77% free throw shooter. As far as from the 3-point, that's not his game. He's a 27.1% free throw 3-point shooter. Not really his game. Not sure if that will develop here with the Celtics, but it's not his thing. But he does bring you hella athleticism, and so they're going to get more athletic from the offense and his defense. He's more of a defensive guy, in my opinion. You can see rebounding, steals, blocks, things like that, right? And so that's where you get. Now, the Celtics in the second round, they made a trade. And so Brad Stevens on draft day made a trade with the 32nd pick. Now, I was scratching my head because I really thought we were going to go get Ryan Kalkbrenner. I believe he was gone. No, he was not. He was not gone because we had the second pick. We had the second pick. I don't know why we didn't go after. We did draft the center, and I'm going to talk about it, but there were a couple of centers I thought that the Celtics were going to get, even when they traded. So they ended up trading with the Orlando Magic, all right? And Brad Stevens got the Celtics 2 second-round picks this year, one in 2026 and one in 2027. So for 4 second-round picks, he got for the 32nd pick. That, man, I'm telling you, when I tell you Stevens was cooking, he was cooking. I'm like, damn, they got 4 second-round picks for 1 second-round pick. Because that, you know what it was? And so a few top players, first-round graded players, fell to the second round. That's what happened. And so if you want the second pick on day 2, then you're going to have to pay for it. And the Magic paid for it. The Celtics got 2 players. We'll talk about those. Zen 101, I see your question out there. I don't want to lose you, so let me get to your question. What is my opinion on keeping Al Horford? Ooh, you're trying to start some trouble, baby. I like this, man. Look, I think the Boston Celtics and Brad Stevens kind of talked about it. Like, he wants to keep Al Horford and Luke Cornett. Like, this guy doesn't want to get rid of any one of those players. I understand that Al Horford is older, but we know what comes with age, wisdom, right? And so we're not asking Al Horford. He's already not playing the back-to-back games. The question is going to come down to, where does Al Horford want to play and where does Luke Cornett want to play? Now, you're asking about Al, so let's stick to Al. I feel like I personally want Al Horford to retire as Celtic, key component in getting Celtics banner 18. I think you need that wisdom. He still stretches the floor. He's not as tall as Kristaps Porzingis, but he's a stretch big. The corner 3 is there. His defensive prowl is there. Presence is there. When you needed him to step up, he was there. The Celtics already got more energetic at the center position. They still have Kata. They drafted Amari Williams from Kentucky. You want to talk about athleticism? I'm telling you, the Celtics got a lot more athletic in getting that 7-foot big with their second-round pick. We'll talk about him in a second at pick 46, which is what they got in the trade for trading to the Orlando Magic. They got 46 and 57. We'll talk about Williams in a second, but they got more athletic, which means they don't need Al Horford to be banging like with athleticism. They need him to really stretch the floor, keep the bigs out of the paint, so I think he's vital. I actually would take Al Horford over Luke Cornett. If I had to pick between the two, give me Al, because Al is vital when you got a team without your star player going in the next season and Jason Tatum. You know that you don't have to necessarily work and put as much weight on the center. So Al Horford can still start at the 5, and then you rotate these guys in, these younger players in. The question is, question is, does Al Horford want to be a Celtic? That's the question. That's the $1 million question. And for me, it is what it is. All right. JSE in the live chat. Appreciate you, man. We got some new people, new faces I've never seen before. No center. I guess they're going to tank this season. 5 points, 5 rebounds per game isn't a center. I like this. You feel like we don't have a center. Are you referring to Georges Niang? Because if you look at our center positions, I mean, Kristaps Porzingis was a little bit different because of his ability to stretch the floor and shoot from the 3. So he definitely gave us points, but you got to look at it a little bit differently if you don't mind. Like, my perception of the situation is, I don't think the Celtics are going to be looking to get that production from the center position especially when they traded Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons. So look for more points coming from that position, less points coming from the center position. So if you go back to last year, and let me know if you guys think this makes sense, they were looking for more points, relying on points coming from the 5, from the center positions, Al Horford, oh my gosh, Kristaps Porzingis, right? They were looking for those, and they were getting less production from the guard position. Now they're going to get that production scoring-wise from the guard position, and they're going to probably lose scoring production from the center position. But with the centers that they get, they're going to get second chance points because of rebounding and things like that. And what I do like about Niang, he can finish around the rim. So you're right, 5 points per game, that ain't kicking it. I get you. I understand. But if Luke Cornett was our guy, he averaged way less. So my thing is, let the Celtics continue to build and cook, and we'll just kind of like see how things play out, when it comes to this. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about, my guy Amari Williams and the 57th pick really quickly. Jonas Gilbert, thank you for joining the live chat. You get the air horns as well. Says, I'm betting Joe Mazzulla Masterclass next season will be great. Man, you have no idea, Jonas. How many? I think we have like 8 or 9 second round draft picks like throughout 2032 or something like that. That's a big number. It might be more, might be a little bit less, but man. And don't think we're going to draft all these second round draft picks. And let me be not the first person to say this, but if you're a Celtics fan, there ain't no way you're expecting the Boston Celtics to find like this crazy second round star player. And it's hard to find that player, right? And that you're not going to look. I know we've watched some players in the league like Jokic be a second round draft pick and become the best player in the league. Even Draymond Green as a second round draft pick was great and vital to his team winning multiple championships in Golden State. And those are just a few to name. But I think the Celtics in the second round, they got an energetic kid from freaking Kentucky. And if I can just describe Amari Williams in 2 words, energetic and playmaking. Energetic and playmaking. So you see my smile because they got a 7-foot kid, right? 200 and almost 30 pounds that can pass the ball really good. Pass the ball really good. He averaged only almost 11 points per game, but he averaged 8.5 rebounds. He averaged 3.2 assists last year. This kid is pretty dang good at making plays as a big. I just mentioned Jokic. No one in the league has better court vision, in my opinion, especially from the 5, than Jokic as a center. And I feel like the Celtics are saying, all right. Now this kid's going to probably be on a 2-way contract or whatever like that. And when he develops, when he's ready, when the Celtics are ready, they'll bring him in. But Amari Williams, I actually think this might be somebody, a diamond in the rough that the Celtics can kind of develop. You know what I'm saying? And this might be somebody that, like, keep your ear to the streets. Average 10.9 points per game. You can see that go down. He scored more when he was with Drexler, but then he ended up in Kentucky in the SEC, which is way better competition, in my opinion. He averaged 22.8 minutes per game. But here's what I like, man. He did score around the rim. He was more about making plays. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I've got highlight reels of watching this kid, and I'm like, yo, he's getting the rebound, and he's at the top of the game. He's just dishing the ball off to the cutters. I'm like, oh man, this kid could be somebody freaking nice, right? Somebody freaking nice. Average 1.2 points per 2 blocks per game. Excuse me. The blocks, I mean, look, the blocks and assists, give me that. Give me that. Give me that. Any fit something that's important, right? How athletic is he? So athleticism, again, is one of the things that stands out for me, for him, as well as his vision and playmaking out on the basketball court. And then Max Schugler was picked number 57. So they did end up going with a guard in the second round. This was the second pick that they got. You can see he was player of the year. All right. Out here, 6'4" guy. Sounds familiar, right? If you're going to be a guard for the Celtics, not necessarily a wing, 6'4" is kind of like that height division. Marcus Smart, Derek White, Drew Holiday, that's kind of the height. But he can score, man. He averaged 15 points per game. He averaged almost 6 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 38%, almost 39% from the freaking 3-point line. So we're going to see, man, these are second round picks. So it's going to be tough to own in, and we'll break these players down as the offseason goes, and we'll dig into. I can't wait to free agency is about to kick off for the NBA, and obviously we're going to get some summer ball and all that good stuff, man. And that is where we're going to probably get a chance to see these young players get out there and do what they do. All right. Now, to everybody new that was out there watching, I do appreciate you. Jonas says one thing: athletic shot blocker that can also pass. Come on, it don't get it doesn't, and he can potentially, Jonas, be the steal. Look, I thought we were gonna get Ryan Kalkbrenner. He was available at 32. We traded the 32nd pick. He almost made it. The kid from there was another kid that I liked out there. I also liked the kid from Florida State. There was just so many different bigs. Depending on what style you wanted, we ended up going with Amari Williams at 46 and Max Schugler, the point guard, at 57. Listen, it's been real. Love you guys. It's Celtics World every day. Don't forget to follow. And for more Celtics, you can follow me at Celtics World Podcast on YouTube. Keep it green, baby. You know how we do. We're going to break stuff down all summer long. Let's have some fun. Celtics World. Love y'all. Peace out.